is Paul Redlich. I'm the president of the Tri-State Warbird Museum. We're here today at the museum beside this beautiful P-51 Mustang to talk to our friend Bill Lahke about what it was like to fly this airplane in World War II. Thanks for being with us today, Bill. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Paul.
Let me just get started by asking you where you were born and where you grew up.
I was born in the Ohio State Orphanage in Columbus, Ohio, and then adopted. My adopted parents lived in Cincinnati, so I was probably born and raised in Cincinnati.
And did you, when you were growing up here in Cincinnati, have any aviation influences in your life?
I always honored I can't remember the fellow's name. He went to our church, High Park Community Methodist Church now, and down in Lunkin, he had one of those original Aronkas that sat right down flat on the ground, you know. I can't remember the name of him. But he finally condescended to give me a ride. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven.
How old were you when you got that ride?
I was about 7 years old.
So that made a lasting impression on you?
I'll never forget it, Paul.
Wow,
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then when World War II started to become more apparent, were you still living here in Cincinnati?
Yes, I was.
And did you enlist?
I had enlisted. I graduated from Withrow High School in 1941, and shortly after that, Warren Giles, who was president of the Cincinnati Reds at the time, they were going through all kind of problems of drafting and enlistments, and the baseball team, professional baseball teams, were falling apart. So he used to come to all my games because I used to date his daughter Jeannie, and I always accused him. He signed me to get me out of town, but he signed me and sent me out to the Pacific Coast League because the Army Air Corps at that time, I had enlisted, passed my physical and written exams. I said, now, how long will it be before I'll be called up? Oh, we are loaded with applicants. We have to go through all this, you know, blah, 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 all that, at least 18 months. So Warren said, well, let's go ahead with signing and send you out to a little town by the name of Meridian, which is almost a suburb of Seattle, Washington. Pacific Coast League team. So I went out there playing third base, and we were very successful doing that. The problem was, my parents called me 5 months later, said, Bill, guess what? I said, what? So I guess you can guess. And they moved me up. So I had 18 days to report to Fort Hays, Columbus, and I was in the Army as a cadet. We went from there to the Aviation Cadet Center in San Antonio for 8 weeks. Go through all kind of things, silly things, but mainly to get you in shape, to get you into the mood of being directed to do this and not to do that. You know,
so
discipline.
Lots of marching and drilling.
Oh yeah, and so did that and got out of San Antonio after 8 weeks and went to Bottom, Texas for primary training, and we didn't have the Stearman. We had a PT-19 Fairchild.
And was that the first airplane that you had flown?
Yes, yes, it was. And now you have to understand, all our instructors were civilian pilots. They were not in the service. They were all but very capable instructors. And so I had 8 weeks there, and went to Greenville, Texas for basic training, flew the PT-13, 8 weeks there, and then to Victoria, and got into a sample, one of these we have over here, the AT-6, for 8 weeks. After graduating from advanced flying school, we were given our wings and our second lieutenant bars, and we went to Bruning, Nebraska in the middle of the winter. Was it cold up there? Yeah. And that's where we were checked out in a P-40 originally up there, and they kept us for about 4 weeks doing that. And then all of a sudden they said, we got something to introduce you guys to. There were about 15 of us up there. So he opens the hangar door, and that said a P-47C, your next step. So they checked us out in the P-47C. Oh, we loved that airplane, you know, big and bulky, but just absolutely loved that airplane. And we were there for another 10 weeks, 8 weeks. And they shipped us to an overseas pool in Liverpool.
So you went from the United States to Liverpool, England.
Yeah, and we were sent from Liverpool up to a place named Stone, the name of a town in upper part of the East Anglia area of England. And there they went through all the instruction of formation flying, tight formation flying, battle formation flying, all that sort of thing in P-47s.
And the people that your fellow pilots that you were with when you went to Liverpool and then on to Stowe, were they sort of the same group that had been with you through the whole training program, or did you see a lot of...
Well, actually, you form your group in advance, because when you move from basic training into advanced training, some people were sent to twin-engine training. Mm-hmm. You know, send a signal to them they're going to be a co-pilot somewhere doing something. And but those of us that were sent to a single-engine flight training plant, like my lifelong friend Charlie Kraft, who flew all my missions with when left advanced flying school, and I went to Liverpool and shipped overseas and went to Poole. We were all together, and another fellow named Junior Highfield and Art Bucks. Art Bucks said, boy, he said, this is going to be profitable for me. And I said, what do you mean profitable? He said, well, my dad and I own 15 miles of Nickel Johns on the West Coast on the beach. So that was his claim to fame. But he was a character. Yep. He was a character.
So you got to sort of fine-tune your flying skills when it came to the real world of fighter pilot flying once you got overseas.
Stone, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were still flying the P-47?
The 47.
And were you flying with English squadrons or strictly with American groups?
American. That was
okay.
American. Stone was an American instructional base.
And how long were you there before you were
put in? We were there for about 3 weeks.
So in 3 weeks you learned everything that you needed to know?
We had hoped we had.
Yes.
And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute if you want to hear
Sure.
it. But we left Stone and went to Raiden, the headquarters of 353rd Fighter Group, and met all the people there. And my favorite person there was Colonel Glenn Duncan. He was a marvelous man. He was our CO. And Ben Rimmerman was our executive officer, and Bill Meyer was assistant executive officer, and a friend of my dad's, incidentally, was the main executive officer of the 353rd Fighter Group.
Small world.
So he saw my name on the incoming roster, so he got in his Jeep, and he came down, and he said, Lieutenant Lahke? And I said, yes, sir. I said, you look familiar. My name is Sam Stevenson, Lieutenant Colonel. He said, your dad and I were friends. I said, I can remember when you two were friends. And when I got a couple of promotions through the thing as it goes on, Sam always wrote my dad a personal letter. You know, this happened, that happened, and what happened. And where were we? I got lost.
How were you introduced into squadron life when you got to the 353rd as a new pilot? Did you have to fly with a more experienced leader for a while?
Yeah, because this was about a week before the invasion of Normandy.
Okay.
We landed there. So we went up with them and did some formation flying and geographical identification flying. We came back confused and what to look for the two estuaries coming out of the North Sea. And right in the middle of that was Raiden. That's where you are right now. You're right over Raiden. So it did things like that, and then took us down lower, showed us if we came from the south end, identify the White Cliffs of Dover. Don't go there because you're running into a bunch of barrage balloons around London and places like that. So get back over the channel and go up the channel and see the two estuaries, and you find your way home.
When you went out on these familiarization flights, was it just you and a leader, or was it a lot of other new?
No, they took it one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
One-on-one.
And for how long did you do that before you were
We
considered
did that for
ready?
about a week, and then we were free to get some flight time in on our own, go off on our own to familiarize once again with the North Sea coastline and England Channel coastline, and go out over the channel a little bit and come back in, find Woodbridge, which was the eternal emergency landing strip for any aircraft trying to get back to England. It was a quarter of a mile wide and 3/4 of a mile long. It was a big piece of concrete. Boy, a lot of concrete trucks went in there, I'll tell you that.
Yes, no kidding. So that was the emergency strip for anybody that was in trouble and coming back to the coast?
Yeah.
How did you like flying the P-47?
Oh, I was in love with it. It was a great aircraft. It wasn't the most maneuverable thing I found after I was introduced to Cincinnati Miss here. It's a lot faster, a lot more maneuverable, but the 47 could take a beating. I've seen pilots fly through treetops, during the training at Stone, I took off for a solo training mission, and another pilot was scheduled to take off 5 minutes behind me, and he blew a tire on the takeoff, so they had to get him another 47, got him in the air. Next thing I knew, thump like that. He came up on, I didn't know he was behind me. He came up like that, hit me on the right wing.
Hit you with his airplane?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And one of the prop blades was bent back at an angle, which caused quite a vibration. He took about 2.5 feet off my right wingtip, right down to the where the aileron started. And I was looking for him, and he's up over the top of me. And I was only about 1,500 feet. I was on an observation thing. He should have called me or something, but, it didn't work out, Paul. And he came down and he tipped me again on the right wing. And he went into about 3 spins. I saw one puff of a parachute, and he went straight into the ground. And lost a good friend through that unfortunate experience.
So did you know what sort of missions you were going to be flying in the P-47 when you got to the 353rd?
Yeah, escort for heavy bombardment, B-24s. I was in the bombardment Group C for the 24s. The 17s for something else, the B-25s for something else.
When you were doing these long-range escort missions, you had drop tanks on your P-47?
Had what?
Drop tanks?
Yes, yeah. We could carry, if it was on an escort mission, we could carry a 200-gallon under the belly and 155-gallon under each wing.
Wow.
But early in the conflict, what the the Luftwaffe would do, they'd meet us about 2/3 way over the channel and bounce us. We have to drop our exterior tanks, protect ourselves. So that didn't prove very noteworthy. So that was a thing, Paul, that brought us from the change to the as the war increased through Europe and deeper into Germany. We had the problem of getting the bombers all the way into the target at Berlin. That's when they really started pounding Berlin and tearing it apart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we would encounter Luftwaffe on the way in, we couldn't get home. We used all our internal fuel of the 2 internal wing tanks and a belly tank. So that's when the development of the 51C was near its completion. So we struggled along with 56 or the 5th group, Don Blakesley's group, had the 51C. So his group and another group were the only 51Cs in the European theater at the time, but they kept bringing them in. And by the time we got them, they brought them in the 51Cs, and we took about 2 or 3 days to get accustomed, to get checked out and get accustomed to those, and fell in love with it. Just absolutely fell in love with the 51. It was kind of cramped, you know. You have to drop your seat all the way down to the bottom, then the gun sight, you had to stretch your neck up on it like that to get the radius disc inside the gun sight. And it wasn't long after that they developed this sweetheart right here, the D. And that was a vast improvement. You're sitting up there in that beautiful bubble canopy with an electric seat and the thing, and go up and down like this, you know. And it was very effective. We were 250 caliber guns short, but the 6 did the job. On the 47, we had 8. But this was a beautiful thing.
When you were flying the P-47, did you have opportunities to do ground strafing missions?
A lot of it.
Was that your primary mission after
our primary
escorting?
mission was, Paul, was always to escort the bombers in and meet another group to come out, to take them out. As soon as that happened, our secondary mission was to go to low altitude and look for targets of opportunity.
So you were free to roam around the countryside looking for trains?
Well, we still had to stay together because you didn't know where some bad thing was going to come from. So we had it pretty well organized. You know, we did a circle around the aerodrome or whatever. Mostly aerodromes, that's what we were after. You know, to defeat an enemy, the best thing to do is take away one of his essential parts. So we would find aerodromes with a lot of F-190s and 109s sitting on the ground, no propellers. That told me one thing, that our bombers were doing a job of knocking out their ball bearing plants. They couldn't complete their propellers. So we would clean those up very easily. Every once in a while, we would hit an aerodrome that was active, a lot of 20 millimeter water hose shooting at you like that, you know. And we were fortunate, Paul. We all the time I was there, we only lost 7 P-47 pilots in all that endeavor, which is a low margin of fatalities.
How long were your missions typically? If you were able to hold on to your drop tanks and go the distance, how long were you in the air for these escort missions?
Over and back and meet Hub Zemke's group or somebody like that to bring them out and do our target of opportunities and monitoring our fuel gauges at the same time. About 2 hours and 30 minutes. And we were back to the bay, back to Raiden.
So the P-47 consumed a lot of fuel, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was not like my SUV.
Yeah.
It diminished the fuel tank in a hurry.
Yeah.
But it was powerful, and it could outdive anything. You know, get on the tail of a 109 or 190 or Ju-88. They were dead ducks. They just had to watch flying by them, because that thing would dive.
And did your whole squadron convert to P-51s?
Yes, all at the same time. It was universal. Our whole group.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the 353rd.
And how many airplanes were in the group?
We had, this would be approximate, Paul. Let me add this up. I think we would have about 120.
So you had arriving 120 or so brand new Mustangs.
It was a period of about 2 weeks to get them all ferried over and put back together and get them to it, and have the lady wasps fly them into us. Yeah.
Well, it must have been exciting to get into a brand new airplane like the Mustang.
Oh, absolutely delirious. We would stand out there with our mouths open, our tongues hanging out, you know. When do we get to use them, Dunk? Oh, you guys are impatient. I'll tell you when. He was a great guy.
Did you get to do any mock dog fighting with your fellow squadron mates to get familiar with the airplanes when you first got it?
No, we didn't. No.
So you had to learn.
Now, we did that when we had the 47s, go out over the channel and do that, drag a target and put some colored bullets in the belts and see if we could hit the targets, you know, that sort of thing.
And how many missions did you fly total with P-47s and P-51s?
109.
109. And how many hours of flight time was that?
That was, I think it was about 580 altogether.
And that was in how long a period of time?
Well, we were the first replacements that hit the 353rd, so from D-Day up until 2 weeks before the victory in Europe was declared. So it's a long time.
What would you say was your most significant mission in the P-51?
Most significant? Only one. I never get it out of my mind. We were, I had my flight. Charlie Kraft was on my right wing. He was always my wingman. And Holly Brook was on my left wing, and Art Brooks was tail end Charlie out to the left. We were coming back. Battle formation. We had dropped down from about 35,000 feet after leaving the bombers, and Hub brought his 56 group in. We dropped down about 10,000 feet. As we hit 10,000 feet, I looked down, and there's a B-24 down there. And a lot of small planes buzzing all around him. You know, he was all alone. So I said to Kraft, I said, and Bucks, I said, let's go down and take a look at it. When we get down, there were, Bucks said there were 25 ME-109s, but I doubt if there were 25. But anyway, I said, they're ME-109s. I said, they're shooting the living hell out of that B-24. And I said, he's flying tail low. So I said, Kraft, you and I'll take the B-24 from the rear, because there are about 3 or 4 of them back there. I said, Artie, take Hollyfield with you and go to the left and see if you can see anything over there. If not, drop down below the 24, pick them up on the right. They might have seen you coming and moved. So I said, Kraft, let's just give them a spray job going in there, because they're just bouncing all. They don't see us. There were 4 of them. So I just went in and held the button down and kicked the rudders back and forth and moved it like I knew we had about the right elevation. Kraft knocked down 2 of them with that, and I missed. I was too high, or too low. Went under the 24, and then we went to the right side, and I got 2 of them on that side that were hanging around. And Kraft said, "Boss," he said, "you took one right away from me there." I said, "My turn. You just got 2 on the tail of the 24. My turn, Charlie, I mean." So about that time, the the remaining Luftwaffe, they had enough of that game. So they hit the deck and took off. So I pulled over on the left side of the B-24 and contacted him by radio. And luckily he answered the radio. And he said, "Hi, little friend." I said, "Hi, big friend." I said, "You just seem not be doing too well." He said, "No." He said, we're in bad shape." I said, "What's your situation?" He said, "Well, about 15 minutes ago," he said, "these guys hit us." And he said, "I don't know what happened to the right engine, but he said it sputtered and quit and then restarted by the pressure of the air on the blades. It got them rolling again." And he said, "But it's running real rough." And I said, "Well, how many RPMs can you get out of it?" He said, "Luckily about 1,800. And I said, "How about your left engine?" He said, "That's fine." He said, "I can get that." And I said, "All right, let's work up some kind of a plan here." He said, "Do you have one?" I said, "Not really," but I said, "I'm going to send my other 3 guys ahead to see if they can draw any fire from any aircraft in our path, and radio me if they see anything. If not, drop down and see what you can shoot up on the ground." So I pulled up next to the 24, and I said, "Do you have any wounded?" He said, "I have a dead waist gunner And he said the pilot, this is a co-pilot I was talking to, he said the pilot is wounded in the right hand, and there's another waist gunner is wounded in the shoulder, and he's laying on the deck. He can't get up. I said, okay, I guess we'll see what we can do with this thing then. I said, can you get any more speed out of that thing? Because I'm kind of wobbly here in the 51, because I'm running about 185 miles an hour. That's a little bit wobbly in that thing, you know. And he said, no, that's it, sir. And I said, well, we'll make do. And I said, if I start to fall apart over here, I have to drop down, get some airspeed, and come back and get you again, which you had to do twice. And we had to get through the southern part of Belgium and get out, and there was the seacoast. So we got out over the North Sea and started west-southwest turn down towards the English Channel, towards Woodbridge. I wanted to get him on the ground somehow. And so we got down the channel, and I could see Woodbridge, and I said, let's wait the last minute to try your landing gear, because the more landing gear you have hanging down there, more drag you're going to have in that thing. And you may take a quick bath in the channel. And he said, you're right. So we hooped out and got lined up with Woodbridge, and we were at about 1,500 feet. And I said, why don't you try your landing gear? He said, okay, I'll drop them. So I didn't see anything. All of a sudden, I saw one landing gear come down out of the left wing compartment. No nose wheel and no right landing gear. I said, well, I think you got a hydraulic problem. I said, see if you can get that. Will it come back up? He said, he said, what's the matter? I said, you only have one landing gear. Oh. So he said, let me get it back up. So he said, it won't come back up. He said, I got two people in the back. Let's try to crank it up. I said, well, we'll take one more loop, real slow loop, because we're getting too close to Woodbridge for you to get that thing in there. So they got it cranked up, the manual crank. It took forever. It seemed like forever. So we got lined up with Woodbridge, and I said, now I'll give you your airspeed, because you don't have. He didn't have an airspeed indicator. That was out. He didn't have a horizontal. He didn't have a horizon. He said that was pointing straight up and down. He said, I know I'm flying straight. But he didn't have any airspeed. That was his problem. So I said, I'll keep in contact with you now. So we're about 140 miles an hour now, 130, 120, 90. Now I said, I have to get mine in here just above 80 to get it on the ground. He said, I'm fine. I said, put it on the grass, not on the runway. So he said, that's where I'm going. So he set that thing down beautifully. Bumped a couple times. At the end, it spun around once. Didn't touch a wingtip. And I sat down the runway.
Wow.
To get my brains ironed out.
Oh,
but it was a serious situation with all those people on that airplane.
What a great story. Well, thank you very much, Bill. We're out of time, but I really appreciate you coming by. That was fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Paul, for the opportunity.